Hey, what's going on, Grappling World? This is Jason Scully from the Grapplers Guide. I wanted to talk about this worksheet that I created a couple years ago for my students. I created this so I can help my students basically have a direction within their grappling and start building their own grappling style, their own grappling system. I think it's very important that you build your grappling system soon within your grappling career. Now, when you first start, you pretty much start from scratch, so you really don't have any techniques to work with. So it's not like you could just build your system right away. You do need a foundation, and you do need some things to start with and to work with. But once you get that solid foundation, once you get the fundamentals down of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, based on what your coach tells you to do and what your school system is, then I think it's very important to start building your style, start finding things that you like to do, and then start focusing on those things, so then that way you can be strong in all different areas within all positions. So I created this worksheet so I can help my students basically stop going through slumps. You're going to have students or yourself, whether you're a coach or it's yourself, and either your students or yourself are going to go through a slump. And it's very important that you have a game plan or a system to help you break through this slump and give you a direction. I think it's very important to have direction as soon as possible within your grappling. Now, if you are a white belt or you are just starting in grappling and you don't really know any moves yet, what I mean by direction is that you know where you need to go or where you're trying to get to from each particular position. So if you don't know any moves, at least if you understand a direction, it's going to help you out and it's going to help you basically work from scratch even without knowing a lot. So for example, if I'm on the feet, if I know my direction is to the ground and I want to be on top, then I know that I want to try to prevent my opponent from taking me down and I want to go for the takedown. If I end up inside their guard, I know my direction is that I want to pass their guard and I want to make sure they don't sweep me. So I want to go forward, which is passing their guard, and I don't want to go backwards, which is them sweeping me or getting a submission. If I'm on the bottom, my direction is to get out. I'm either getting to my knees or I'm getting to the guard. If I have the guard, I'm either getting a sweep or I'm getting a submission. So at least I have a direction. Now, in the beginning, I may not know exactly how I'm going to get to where I want to go. For example, I could be driving a car, but if the car is crappy, it's not really going to get me very far. And that's pretty much how it is in the beginning of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But know that when you're a white belt and you're first starting out in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that you want to at least focus on a direction. So because if you know where you want to go, it's going to help you much more than if you don't know where you want to go. So start with that and then start finding the techniques that you like to do. Start finding the moves and the positions that you really enjoy and start focusing on those, so then it can become your style and it can become your game, and then you become stronger and stronger and you start using that throughout your jiu-jitsu career. You're going to find that some of the best grapplers in the world have been using the same positions, the same submissions, and the same movements ever since they were a blue belt. And it's not uncommon. So the purpose of this sheet is to help people start trying to build a system sooner rather than later. So I'm going to basically walk you through this. I'm also going to tell you how you can get it for those who do not have it yet as well. So like I was saying, the purpose of this is to start building your own personal grappling system. All right, so I'm going to read this through for you. You can read along with me, and then I'm going to also show you an example of a grappling system that was created. Okay, so while you can start building your style early, please remember that if you're a novice or a beginner or a white belt, you should also make sure you have strong fundamentals. As you work into the intermediate and upper blue belt and above stages, that is where it is really important to start to become and finding your own style and then build from there. This also helps in shortening and even preventing some training plateaus. So build your fundamentals first and then start building your style. The purpose of this building your personal grappling system starting sheet is to help you start building your own style. As you train and you get better, it starts to become important to build your own style and do things that work for you and not just everyone else. This is what makes grappling a true martial art. Once you build your own style and you get good at the things that work for you, then you'll truly start to excel. A very common thing that happens is the grappling students get focused on just learning and adding everything their coach teaches them in class. You want to avoid this because then you start becoming a jack of all trades and a master of none. Find what you like that your coach teaches in class and what you feel comfortable with, and then go from there. Don't be a collector of techniques. Now, if your coach gives you something specific to work on because they know that this will work for you, then you're going to work on those things. So you definitely want to use your coach and your instructors if they're giving you the direction and they're giving you the pieces of the system to put in place. All right, so definitely remember that. So I'm going to go through the different steps and the instructions of using this worksheet, and I may add things here and there. So you always start from standing. The reason you always start from standing is because whether it's a real fight or it's a tournament, it always starts from the feet. All right. So you're going to see in the sheet the standing section is in the middle, and that's where you want to start. So we're building from standing. Once you have your list of things that you like to do from standing, it's going to build off from there. Whether you pull guard, you get taken down, so on and so forth, that's where it starts. So you start in your feet, and then you're going to end up somewhere. It doesn't matter. If you get taken down, you end up put in side control, or if you get taken down and now you have half guard, or you take the person down and you're stuck inside their open guard, you're going to end up somewhere starting from the feet. And the purpose of you doing it this way is to help you actually think about how your game plan will pan out in your mind while you're writing it down instead of just filling in areas randomly. Then once you start, figuring out what your takedowns are, what possibly might happen to you, then you want to start building off those other positions. All right. Once you have filled in the sections that stemmed off all the matches starting from standing section, which you'll see when I show you soon in the future, then go to one of the other filled in sections, look at it, and see what section may stem off of that item on the list. For example, if you have the section that's called I have close guard section filled in, and one of the items in that section is scissor sweep, then the section you may want to fill in next would be I have the mount, because if you got the scissor sweep, there's a high chance you're going to end up in the mount. Your opponent may shrimp really quick, and you may end up in half guard or something, and so on and so forth, and then you basically go to that section from there. Number 4 would be to only add things that you like to do, things that you're getting good at, or things that you feel may not be perfect but have potential for your game. You are starting to come close with them, but they may not be perfect. You don't want to just add things that you don't do at all. You don't want to add these things yet. When you first fill out this sheet, you just want to add things that you do or you're coming very close to doing, because if you add things that you wish you can do, you're just going to fill in the space, and it's going to kind of be pointless. The purpose for doing it this way is so you prevent from writing a huge list in each section of pretty much nonsense. You don't want things you don't even try or that look cool but you've never even tested in practice to see if they would really work or not. Don't worry if you can only think of one thing to put in a section, or if you can't even think of anything. If that is the case, then you know you're basically weak in that area, and you need to focus on that area in practice to find what works for you. And then build that area up only with options you are starting to feel is right for you. Don't just add something to fill in the space. This is very important. So, for example, if your half guard stinks and you're looking at the half guard section and you cannot think of anything that you like to do or anything that you've been working on, leave it blank. The reason you want to leave it blank in the beginning is because you're going to see that you have a huge hole in your game and you really, really need to fix this. Another reason you don't want to do that is because even if you have just one thing listed in the section, you want to find something that may complement that one thing, so then you can build off of it and then build a system. So let's take half guard, for example, again. Let's say I like doing, a butterfly half guard sweep from there. And that's the only thing I like to do and the only thing that I know from there. At least I have something to start off with. And the next things that I want to work on to fill in those gaps and fill in those holes is something that complements the butterfly sweep from half guard. So in that way, I can build off of it, build a good system. You want to think of it as a tree. You're planting the seed, you're starting with the trunk, and then the branches are building out from there, and then you're going to have all these different stems, all these different branches, and you're going to have all these different options as well. Now, you can add systems. This list does not need to be written in complete detail because you should be able to know what it is you wrote down, being that it's something that you feel good with or you see potential in it with practice. Now let's say, for example, there's a few closely linked things that you know you like to do and are good at from a particular position, such as deep half guard, for example. You can write down something like deep half guard triple threat or deep half guard system, so on and so forth, because you understand what that is. Now, if you take this to your coach or you talk about it with your coach, you would explain what the deep half guard triple threat is, and they would help you from there. You don't need to fill in all the spaces. Like I was saying before, in relation to step number 4 of this form, you don't have to fill in all the spaces just because there are spaces there. You want to try and have at least 2 to 3 options in each section as a general rule. However, make sure you don't force it by putting just anything in those spaces that you aren't even familiar with. All right? Read step 4 again if you're confused. You don't want to just put things in there. You want to use this to find out what you like to do from each particular position and to know that you have options. Once you're done doing this, I guarantee you're going to have more of a direction than you ever did before just by doing this simple thing. So we want to focus on the things you like to do. Focus on the top 2 or 3 things that you like to do. If you write down 4 or 5 things, really think about it and mark off the top 2 things that you like to do, and in my opinion, those are the things that you should really be focusing on the most, and focusing around those things as well. Usually, when my students fill this out, sometimes they'll fill out all 5 spaces, and I'll look at it and I'll say, "How much do you do this?" And they'll be like, I do it a good amount. And I say, well, what's the percentage that you hit it? They'll say about 50%. And then I'll look at something else in the same section. I'll say, well, how much do you hit this? And they'll say 90%. And then I'll say, well, okay, well, how much do you hit this thing, which is in slot number 3? They'll say about 85%. And then the next thing I'll say is, all right, we're going to take this 50% thing and we're just going to take it out for now. We're going to get rid of it. We're going to focus on these 2 things because they're higher percentage things, and we're going to build a system from this section off of these 2 things. So then that way they have a direction and they're working on what their strong point is at the moment. We want to start building their A system, the things that they like to do the most, and then going from there. For number 7, you want to make a separate game plan for each style. If you train no-gi grappling, make a game plan for that style. If you train gi grappling, then make a game plan for that particular style. Even if you train both, then make a game plan for each one. I myself like to keep both my gi and my no-gi styles similar, however. The reason for that is because if both of my games are similar, it's an easier transition. Basically my no-gi game, when I put the gi on, I'm allowed to, I can grab things. So it changes things a little bit, but the closer they are, the easier the transition is. Number 8, keep it simple. Take notice that with the example game plan that is on the last page, there's no huge descriptions, and basically the lists are filled with simple descriptions. Just like your training, you don't want to make your learning harder than it needs to be. Since you're the one writing down these sections, possibly with the help from your coach, hopefully with the help from your coach. I've had people email me, coaches actually email me, saying that their students had these sheets and they were happy that they had these sheets because they joined my email list in the past, and it's really helped their students figure out a style for themselves. So since you're writing one of these, since you are the one writing these sections down, possibly with your coach, and these things in the list are aspects you like and are working to incorporate, you'll remember them better regardless of their simplified descriptions. So basically what I mean is, if the descriptions are simple, you're the one who wrote them down. So you should know what you wrote down, what you remembered, and if you do bring this to your coach, it should be fairly easy for you to describe what it is and what it means in that section. Flow them together. You want to create lines to link each section together accordingly. A good idea is to use colored pencils to make things easier to read. Then study how each section flows together. Now, I've had people use many different ways of creating a flowchart off of this grappling system sheet. I've had people use a dot system. If I could find that somewhere, somebody created that maybe like a year ago on SureDog. I believe it was Code Monkey, if I remember correctly, and it was such a really good way to do it. I have a student who's an engineer, and it was one of the nicest flowcharts I've ever seen anybody make in person from the grappling system worksheet. So there's different ways you could do it. Some people use marker, some people use the computer, some people use colored pencil. But the point is, regardless, you want to start flowing the sections together and even flowing the techniques together as well. Now, number 10, this is where it starts getting extremely important. You want to actually practice the game plan. Don't just do all this work and not use it. I would say this is the number one thing that happens. Drill these situations over and over again. Break your game plan down in sections and then drill them. As you get used to each section, it will all come together. Talk to your coach. Let your coach look at it and explain to him or her. Analyze it with your coach. Hopefully your coach lets you use this, because I truly believe this is a great tool. Myself, I'm working on a version 2.0 for my students. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to try it out and let them use it, because anybody who's a blue belt and above in my school right now has to fill out these sheets, because it's very important for them to start building a style, especially if they want to start getting up to purple belt and the higher ranks as well. You want to practice it after class. And if you come early, practice it before class. Find a training partner, 5-10 minutes. It doesn't matter, and practice it. Visualize it. Think about how you're going to do it, where you're going to go from one position to the next, what's going to happen, how it's going to pan out, so on and so forth. Go through the flow when you're drilling as it is seen in your game plan that is written out. And you want to go through it like it's written. If you end up in this position, you do this, you're going to end up here. It's either you end up in another position, you're in an advantageous position, or you're in a position that's a disadvantage for you, or you get the submission. All right, you're going to end up somewhere. You're ending up in 3 directions. You're either winning at the moment, you're losing at the moment, or you already won. All right, we'll add 4 directions. You already lost. All right, but that's we're not going to add that in there, because if you know the technique well and you know what your goals are and you know where you're supposed to be, then you shouldn't be finished. You shouldn't be getting submitted as often. Number 11, systemize. The goal is to create a grappling system for yourself, one that works for you over and over again. Once you feel very good with this system, then build off of it. Add to each section, but you can break it down more. So you can break it down more in each individual list under each section. You would write down answers to each obstacle you may encounter with each individual list in each section. So you're basically going to take each section and break it down and see where you might have holes in those sections, and then build off of it. Talk to your coach, talk to your training partners, and then come back to your game plan maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months afterwards and see where you're at in regards to your game plan and your grappling system. Think of your fundamentals as the trunk of a tree and your game plan sections as branches that are growing from the tree, and little branches growing from each bigger branch, and so on. This is something I talked about before. It's a concept that I believe is very easy to visualize and think about, and I think it will help a lot of people. Now, number 12, you want to revisit your game plan constantly. While you're not going to be completely changing your game plan, there's always adjustments to be made. The people who are great at grappling have options and movements they've used since they were beginners or white belts or blue belts, and they're still successful at them because they never stopped. They never stopped doing them, and they created systems around them by adding adjustments. If you watch the top players, they have a system and they have a game. They're known for certain moves. I'm sure you have somebody in your gym who is the triangle choke guy, or you have the Bravo choke guy, or you have the spider guard guy, or you have the reverse de la Riva guy, or you have the half guard player. The reason they're labeled those things is because they have a system, and they're probably the ones who are better in the gym than most people. You want to be known as that guy. You're going to have people, if you're the triangle guy, people, they're like, oh man, this person keeps triangling me, whatever. But that's a good thing to have. That means you're starting to build a system, and then you want to start building around that. You want to start filling in the gaps and the holes that you have, so it's not just a partial system, it's a complete system. And then step number 13, you want to drill it, and drill it. And as it says right here, that's basically self-explanatory. Now let's get into the sheet here. This is the sheet here. Basically, we start in the middle. So we have all matches start from standing, all right, because basically all matches start from standing. I have 6 sections here. Most of you aren't even going to fill in 6 sections. You should have 2 to 3 options from here. Right here where it says type of game plan, that's where you write in either gi or no gi. It's either gi game plan or your no gi game plan. So let's say you get the takedown. You might get the takedown and you might end up in your opponent's close guard, or you might get the takedown and you end up in your opponent's open guard, or you might get the takedown and you end up on top. So you want to know what you want to do from there. So if you get in the close guard, you might like to do the knee cutter pass. Man, I know people where their game plan ends up being like 10 things. They have something for every section, but it's 10 things. But the difference is they know exactly where they want to go as soon as they get there. So even though they might have 10 things to an opponent's like 30, 40, or 50 things, they end up doing better because they know where they need to be and when they need to be there, as opposed to their opponent, where their opponent just basically has these 50 things and there's no organization at all. The point is to create organization. So let's say I'm in the close guard. I pass the close guard and I end up in side control. Now, when I'm in side control, I have options. I go for submissions and I either finish or I transition my position. I might get the back, or I might go and I might get the mount. If I get the back, I go for submissions from there. If I get the mount, I go for submissions from there. Let's say I get the mount, but my opponent escapes. Now I'm in half guard. Now I got to pass the half guard. I go for the knee cutter. I get back to the mount, or I get back to side control. My opponent escapes. They get the guard, and I end up in their open guard. I like to do passes from there. I start the pass, but I end up in the half guard from the top. So now I go for passes from half guard from the top, and I either pass the guard, or my opponent may recover, and I'm in my opponent's open guard. I'm sorry, over here I would have had the guard, but I'm in my opponent's open guard. All right, so on and so forth. So it's basically going to flow together. Now, if you look at the last sheet, there's a sample system sheet here, and basically this isn't my personal system. I wrote some things down, and I color coded it with colored pencil, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So for example here, I get the double leg. When I get the double leg, I end up in my opponent's closed guard. I do the knee cutter. When I do the knee cutter, I end up on top. When I end up on top, I either get the baseball bat choke, I go for a knee on belly system, which, for example, what I was saying before is the knee on belly system could be a few different things. I go for the arm crush. So if I hit one of these things, then I'm going to get the finish. If my opponent escapes, I could end up all the way in half guard here. If I end up in half guard, I might go for a Kimura and I get the finish. Or I'm going to go right back to the knee cutter, which is going to take me back to side control. And I go right back to these things. Just because you didn't get the first time doesn't mean you give up. You keep going and going and going and going. The people who are relentless with the things they like to do and their special techniques and their system, those are the ones who become overwhelming, and those are the ones who end up winning a lot. So from here, let's say my opponent escapes and I end up inside their closed guard. Right here, I would end up inside their closed guard. I stand up, I do the knee cutter again. If you notice, I have knee cutter here, I have knee cutter here, which is the knee slice. I have knee cutter here. Basically, all the passing is knee cutter. So you might have the same pass for every single guard, but the difference is you're so strong at that pass that you should do it over and over and over and over again. And then what you're going to learn from there is you're going to learn how to add things to the knee cutter as well. So then I might add something else as a number 2 if the knee cutter isn't working. And now I'm building a system within this particular area here. So let's say I end up pulling guard. All right, I pull guard. I either get close guard, or I get open guard, or I could possibly even get the half guard as well. So let's say I get the close guard. I get the close guard. I hit a flower sweep. All right. If my opponent scrambles, I might end up on top from the half guard. If my opponent doesn't scramble, I might end up on the mount over here. I didn't write the arrow in there because this isn't this isn't complete in regards to all the arrows and the flowing. You would really, really want to sit down and think about this. But let's say I can't get it and I end up in half guard here. So I'm going, my opponent steps over, I end up in half guard. I go for the deep half guard, I go for the deep half guard sweep, and then from here I sweep, and then I get back, and then I'm on half guard from top. Then I go for the long hug pass, the knee slide, so on and so forth. But the point is, when you do this and you make all these arrows, you want to have every single move accounted for. When you do this and you study this, you should be drilling this whole system in your training. You should be drilling it before or after class with your partner. Get a partner who does this as well. You both take 5 minutes of your own time drilling your system, and then you're going to have a direction. You're going to know what takedowns you go for. You're going to know how you want to pull guard. You're going to know what sweeps and submissions you want to go for when you have the closed guard. As soon as you get the closed guard, you're going to know where you want to go for the mount, whether you're submitting or you're changing your position. If your opponent escapes, you're going to know what pass you want to go for. If you get that pass, you're going to know what submissions you want to go for from side control. If your opponent escapes and it gets closed guard, you're probably going to go for that same pass, or you know what other pass you want to go for. If your opponent escapes and they get open guard, you know what pass you want to go for. If you pass to the mount, you know what submissions you want to go for. If your opponent turns their back, you know what submissions you want to go for. And you're just basically rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire. That's what you want to do. This is something that I always try to work on. And, there's some people who are better than me at doing this. They may not go through this particular they may not go through this particular style of creating their system, but they may have more experience, they may have more timing, they may have spent more time doing this. But the point is that, they have a system, and it's their system that may be better than mine, or my system that may be better than theirs. So I recommend that you guys definitely get this and you definitely use it, because I feel that this is something that can really help a lot of people. It's something that I definitely believe in, and I created it a couple years ago, and all my students who are blue belt and up have to do it. It's building your personal grappling system. The only way you can get it is if you go to grapplersguide.com. You have to fill out your name and your email, and then you'll also get emails of articles and all my videos. For those who know me, who are subscribed to my YouTube, who are on my Facebook, I do the best I can in regards to giving good content and a lot of free content. Every now and then you might see like a PS or something mentioning a product or a DVD or something that I created that I might be selling to help support myself and the websites that I have, and basically help keep me motivated in regards to helping people in the grappling community. So you might see some things like that, but 99% of it is going to be good content. So go to grapplersguide.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, also subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I always have a lot of really good videos on there. At least people tell me they're really good, and I appreciate everybody for that. So go to grapplersguide.com, fill out the form on there, and then when you fill out the form, you're going to get an email, and it's going to have a link to this sheet. And the only way I'm going to answer questions about this sheet is if you reply to that email you get. Okay, so I'm not going to answer any questions on forums. I'm not going to answer any questions about it on Facebook. I'm not going to answer any questions about it on YouTube. So the only way that I will answer any questions about your grappling system, about any questions about how to use this, is if you fill out that form on grapplersguide.com and you download the grappling system, then you fill it out, or something you might be confused with, reply to that email with your question, and I'll do the best I can to get back to you. I try to get back to people on around Wednesdays and Sundays, because I get a lot of emails nowadays. But I appreciate everybody for your support. Hopefully this is something that helps you. Don't quit grappling. It's one of the best things I could have ever done with my life. I've met so many good people in person and online. I've been a lot of different places, and I'm not done yet. All right, guys, thank you for everything. Peace, and great grappling to you.